They all clapped for my boss, for my idea. He smiled, took the bow, and said, "Innovation takes leadership." I sat at the back of the room, ignored, invisible, burning inside. But he didn't know what I'd already done, because when the investors heard the pitch, they skipped him and called me directly. "Hi, I'm Riley Chen. I work here, at this fast-growing fintech company. I'm just a mid-level developer, always have been. I'm not the type to shout or push my way to the front. I like to work, head down, focus, get the job done. I always believed that good work speaks for itself. Turns out, I might have been wrong. A few months ago, I had an idea. A big one, I thought. It could really change things for our company. It was about streamlining our user verification process using AI. It would make things faster, safer, and a lot more user-friendly. Think about how much time people spend on setting up new accounts, or how many steps it takes to prove you're you. My idea was to cut through all that, making it seamless and secure. I spent weeks on it after my regular hours. Late nights, fueled by coffee, and that little spark of excitement when you know you're onto something good. My apartment became a second office. My laptop screen was my best friend. I skipped dinners with friends, weekend outings. Every spare moment was dedicated to this project. I felt like I was on the verge of something big, something that could really make a difference. I built a whole pitch deck, slides, data, even a working prototype. It wasn't perfect, but it showed what the idea could do. It proved the concept. I even created a basic user interface so people could see how it would actually feel to use it. I imagined users going through a much smoother process, fewer clicks, less frustration. I was nervous, but also proud. This was my baby. Every line of code, every design choice, every piece of research, it all had my fingerprints on it. The next step was my boss, Mark Ellison. He's good at the talking part of things. Always confident, always making sure he's seen. He had a way of commanding a room, even if he wasn't always the one with the deepest understanding of the technical details. I thought, okay, he can present this. He can take it to the higher-ups. He has the connections, the access to the board. I just need to get it in front of him first. I genuinely believed he would be thrilled, that he would see the potential and champion my idea. I trusted him. I sent him an email, attached the deck and the prototype link. "Mark," I wrote, "I've been working on this idea that I think could be a real game changer. It's about leveraging AI for our user verification process. I've put together a pitch deck and a basic prototype. Would you have some time to take a look and give me some feedback? I'd love to hear your thoughts." I even offered to walk him through it in person. I wanted to make it as easy as possible for him to understand the value. He replied the next day, short and sweet. "Sure, Riley. Stop by my office this afternoon." No excitement, no real enthusiasm, just a standard, almost dismissive reply. It was a bit deflating, but I told myself not to read too much into it. Mark was busy. He was the boss. I went in, feeling a mix of hope and anxiety. I walked him through the whole thing, showed him the prototype, explained the potential benefits. I talked about the market need, the competitive advantage, the estimated ROI. I even highlighted potential challenges and how I envisioned overcoming them. I spent almost an hour in his office, pouring out all my passion and hard work. He listened, nodding occasionally, but not really saying much. His eyes seemed a little distant, like he was thinking about something else. When I finished, he just said, "Thanks, Riley. I'll take a look." No questions, no feedback, no "great job." That was it. I left his office, a little deflated, but still hopeful. Maybe he just needed time to process it. Maybe he was just busy, and he'd get back to me with insightful feedback later. I tried to convince myself of that. A week went by. Nothing. I saw Mark in meetings, but he didn't mention my idea. Not a word. I started to wonder if he even remembered it, or if he'd just glanced at it and moved on. I felt a growing sense of disappointment. Was my idea not as good as I thought? Should I have approached it differently? Then I heard whispers. Talk about a big investor meeting coming up, a chance to secure major funding for a pivotal new project. My stomach dropped. A cold feeling spread through me. That's when I got this knot in my stomach. A bad feeling. A very bad feeling. The day of the investor meeting, I wasn't supposed to be there. It was for senior management and key stakeholders. But I managed to slip in. I told my immediate supervisor I needed to grab some documents from a meeting room nearby, then just hovered near the entrance to the main conference hall. I just wanted to see how it went. Maybe they'd mention something, anything about the direction of the company, about any new initiatives. I had a tiny, desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, my idea had been incorporated somehow, even if I wasn't presenting it. The presentation started. Mark was up there, smooth as always. He had on his best suit, a confident smirk on his face, talking about innovation, about the future of the company, about pushing boundaries. And then I saw it. My slides, my data, my prototype screenshots. They were up on the massive screen, projected for everyone to see. He had changed the color scheme slightly, maybe reordered a few bullet points, but it was unmistakably my pitch deck. He was presenting my idea, word for word, slide for slide. He had taken the foundation, polished it slightly, and wrapped it in his own confident delivery. It was undeniably my work, my intellectual property, and then came the moment he said it, the words that felt like a punch to the gut. This innovative approach, he said, gesturing to the screen displaying my prototype, is something my team and I have been developing for the past few months. It represents a significant leap forward for our company. The room erupted in applause. The investors were impressed. They were leaning forward, nodding their heads, asking questions, and Mark was answering them confidently, like he had come up with it all himself, like he had poured his soul into it just as I had. He smiled, took a bow, and said that awful sentence. Innovation takes leadership. I sat at the back of the room, my face burning. I felt like I couldn't breathe. It was my idea, my hard work, and he was taking all the credit. I was invisible, ignored, my voice completely stolen. My blood ran cold, then hot with rage. My hands clenched into fists under the table. I wanted to stand up, to shout, to tell everyone the truth, to scream, "That's my idea. He stole it." But I froze. What could I say? Would anyone believe me? He was the boss. He had power, a reputation. I was just Riley, the quiet developer in the back, a mid-level employee. My words would be dismissed as sour grapes, jealousy. My career would be over before it truly began. The fear paralyzed me. I left the meeting feeling sick, betrayed, utterly devastated. What was I supposed to do? This was my career, my future, all my hard work, and he had just taken a giant step forward using my work, my creativity, my very essence. It wasn't just about the idea. It was about the principle, the sheer audacity of it. Days turned into weeks. Mark was getting praised. There were internal announcements about the groundbreaking new project spearheaded by Mark Ellison and his visionary team. People were talking about him getting a promotion, about how he was the one driving innovation. It felt like a constant assault on my spirit. Every mention of his project was a fresh stab. I felt a growing resentment, a bitterness that was hard to shake. It consumed me. I couldn't focus on my other tasks. My passion for coding, for creating, was dulled. I started to question everything. Was this what the corporate world was truly like? Was my quiet, head-down approach a weakness? But amidst the despair, a stubborn spark remained. I started documenting everything. Every late night I worked. Every email I sent to Mark. The exact date and time I shared the original files with him. I even had screenshots of my initial prototype code with creation dates. It was all I could think to do, just gather the proof, even if I didn't know what I would do with it. My instinct was to protect myself, to have something, anything, in my corner. I backed up everything to a personal cloud drive, just in case. Every file, every version, every single piece of data related to that project. It became my secret weapon, hidden away. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, about a month after the big presentation, I got a LinkedIn message. It was from someone I didn't recognize at first. His name was David Chen, no relation surprisingly, and his profile said he was a lead investor at a major venture capital firm, one of the firms that had been at Mark's presentation. He was a big name in the industry. His message was short. "Hi Riley, I saw the presentation on the new user verification system. I was impressed with the technical details. I noticed your name mentioned as a contributor on some internal documents I reviewed. Could you be open to a quick chat sometime this week?" My heart skipped a beat. Why would an investor, a high-level one, want to talk to me? I was just a developer. It felt too good to be true, almost like a trap. I almost ignored the message, thinking it was a mistake or spam. But something told me to reply. That little spark of hope, the one that had been flickering weakly, suddenly flared. This could be it. This could be my chance. We scheduled a call for the next day. I was a nervous wreck. My hands were shaking as I dialed in. What could he possibly want? Was he going to ask me about some obscure technical detail Mark had messed up? Was he just doing due diligence? When we finally spoke, David was surprisingly direct. He didn't waste time with small talk. "Riley," he said, his voice calm but firm, "I have to be honest. During the presentation, something felt off." Mr. Ellison's presentation was slick, but the technical depth when he was discussing the core mechanics didn't quite align with the initial overview. We did some follow-up. Your name was listed as a contributor on one of the early prototype diagrams we obtained from an internal source. Could you tell me more about your role in developing this system? My mouth went dry. This was it. My chance. My moment to either speak up or let it all go. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. I chose to be completely honest, to lay it all out. I told him everything. How the idea was mine, born from my own observations and research. How I spent countless hours after my regular workday building the prototype and the pitch deck. How I had approached Mark for feedback, hoping he would champion my idea, and then how he presented it as his own, completely omitting my name and contribution. I explained my process, the technical challenges I had overcome, the solutions I had engineered. I talked about my passion for the project, the belief I had in its potential. David listened intently, asking clarifying questions. He didn't interrupt, didn't sound disbelieving. He just took it all in. When I finished, there was a pause, a long, agonizing pause that felt like an eternity. I held my breath. "Riley," he said finally, his voice thoughtful, "thank you for your honesty. We were very impressed with the concept itself. The technology is solid, but we also value transparency and integrity very highly. We invest in people as much as ideas. Would you be willing to come in and present your work directly to us and some other key members of the board? We'd like to see the original files, understand the development process from your perspective." Was stunned. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You want me to present? To the board? To the investors? "Yes," he replied. "We want to hear it from the source, see the original files, understand the development process." Can you do that? Could I? Absolutely. This was my chance to finally be heard, to set the record straight, to claim what was rightfully mine. My heart soared. This wasn't just about the project anymore. It was about proving my worth, about fighting for what was right. The next few days were a whirlwind. I was still working my regular job, but every evening and weekend was dedicated to preparing. I dusted off my original presentation, refined the prototype, and gathered all my documentation, the time-stamped devlogs, the early sketches, the emails with Mark, every single piece of evidence. I wanted to leave no room for doubt. I practiced my presentation endlessly, making sure every word was clear, every technical detail accurate. I wanted to be articulate, confident, and utterly convincing. The day of the presentation, I was terrified but also determined. My hands were clammy, but my mind was clear. I walked into a room filled with serious-looking people, the investors, board members, some senior executives. It was a bigger group than at Mark's presentation, and this time, I was the one standing at the front. Mark wasn't there. I wasn't sure if he knew what was happening, but I suspected he was being kept in the dark. A small part of me felt a grim satisfaction at that thought. I took a deep breath and started. I explained my vision, the market problem I was trying to solve, the technical details of the AI integration, the potential impact on the company's bottom line and user experience. I showed them the original prototype, walked them through the code line by line, explaining my decisions, my logic. I presented my data, my timelines, everything that proved this was my idea, my work, developed entirely by me outside of my regular hours. I showed them the clear audit trail, the digital breadcrumbs that led straight back to me. When I finished, the room was silent for a moment. Then, questions started. Tough questions, technical questions, strategic questions. They challenged my assumptions, probed my understanding, tested the limits of my knowledge, and I answered them all, confidently and honestly, because this was my work. I knew it inside and out. I could explain every detail, every nuance, every potential pitfall, and how I planned to mitigate it. It was exhilarating to finally share my passion and knowledge without having it filtered or reattributed. Afterward, David thanked me again. He smiled, a genuine smile this time. He said they would be in touch soon. I left the meeting feeling a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. I had spoken my truth. Whatever happened next, I had done what I could. I had fought for myself. A few days later, I got a call from the CEO. His tone was serious but professional. He said they had reviewed everything, spoken to David and the other investors, and looked at the evidence I had provided. They knew the truth. He didn't explicitly mention Mark, but it was clear what had happened. He informed me that Mark had been quietly removed from the project, and an internal investigation was underway regarding his conduct. He also expressed the company's deepest apologies for what I had experienced. He told me they were incredibly impressed with my initiative, my technical prowess, and the sheer quality of my work. Then came the offer I never expected. He said they didn't want to just implement my idea. They wanted to invest in me. They wanted to create a new division, a spin-off focused entirely on this AI-powered user verification technology. And they wanted me to lead it, as the founder of the new venture, with significant equity and a leadership role. I was speechless. From having my idea stolen and being ignored, to being offered this incredible, life-changing opportunity, it felt surreal. A complete 180-degree turn. It was validation beyond anything I could have imagined. All those late nights, all that frustration, all that fear of being unheard, it all paid off in this moment. Of course I said yes. How could I not? This was my dream, my vision, finally becoming a reality. The following weeks were a whirlwind of setting up the new division, hiring my own team, and moving forward with my vision. It was hard work, long hours, but it was also incredibly rewarding. Every decision was mine. Every success was shared with my new dedicated team. I was finally getting the recognition I deserved, building something truly innovative from the ground up. Then, one evening, while I was leaving the office, a text message popped up on my phone from an unknown number. "Riley, it's Mark." I almost deleted it immediately. My first instinct was to block the number and move on. But curiosity got the better of me. I paused, then replied, "Mark who?" Deliberately playing dumb. "Mark Ellison," came the immediate response. I didn't reply immediately. What could he possibly want? After all the disrespect, the theft, the way he had dismissed me, I let the silence hang, letting him stew for a moment. A few minutes later, another text came through. "Riley, I know things didn't end well. I made a mistake. A big mistake. I'm trying to find a new role. Things have been difficult for me since the change in management. Would you be willing to give me a referral for a position at a company you know?" I stared at my phone in disbelief. After taking credit for my work, after trying to build his entire career on my idea, after all the stress and betrayal he had put me through, he was asking me for a favor? A referral? The audacity was truly staggering. It was almost laughable. I thought about it for a long moment. I thought about all the sleepless nights, the feeling of being invisible, the burning rage in that investor meeting, the betrayal. And then I thought about where I was now, leading my own division, my idea finally taking flight, building a team that respected me. I thought about the justice that had been served, not by my hand, but by the truth finding its way out. I didn't feel angry anymore, just a quiet, calm certainty. I typed a short reply. "No, Mark, I don't think I can do that." I didn't feel any satisfaction, no triumphant glee, just a quiet sense of closure. I had moved on. I was finally in a place where my work spoke for itself, and it was being heard, loud and clear. And that, in itself, was the greatest victory. If you've ever had your work stolen, your voice ignored, or your light dimmed by someone louder, this story is for you. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and if this story resonates with you. Remember, receipts and resilience speak louder than applause.